Alright everyone, I hope you're all doing okay. Just got a couple more examples of finding areas of triangles real quick to walk through with you all. So these first two here on the left, they're telling me find the area of this triangle, but I only know one side. Okay, well we can tell it's a right triangle, and they told us that these two are congruent. The only kind of right triangle that has congruent legs is a 45, 45, 90 right triangle. So you can go ahead and put in 45 for those angles if you wanted to. And you just have to remember that pattern: leg, leg, and then leg squared of 2. Okay, so to figure out the length of each of those legs, we'll say 10 equals leg squared of 2, and then we saw before we divide by square root of 2, so each leg is going to be 10 divided by square root of 2. And then if you remember the trick there, it's divide by 2 multiplied by square root 2 whenever you rationalize that denominator. So that's going to end up being 5 square root 2 for each leg. Okay, so you might think, awesome, I found the leg, I'm done. We didn't answer the question that they asked us, which is find the area. So our formula is area equals 1/2 base times height. Well, the base and the height in this case are the same, so we'll just go ahead and plug in 1/2 5 square root 2 times itself. Okay, so 5 times 5 is 25, and then the square root of 2 times the square root of 2 is a 2, and then we're going to have to divide that answer by this 2. So the nice thing is we get some cancellation. So our final answer will be 25 square units. When we're looking at area, we're not counting how long something is. We're looking at how many squares we can fit in that two-dimensional figure. So this tells us we can fit in exactly 25 squares that are 1 meter by 1 meter. So that'd be the area of that triangle. The one on the right is actually a little bit more straightforward. It looks really confusing. Just remember 1/2 base times height. You might be really tempted to do like 15 times 6 or 20 times 15. Remember that the height is always perpendicular to one of the sides. I know we're used to thinking of the base as being at the bottom, so what I'm going to do is flip this around to where it looks like my base is on the bottom. So this looks like my base, that's my height. So my formula, I'm going to plug in 1/2 20 times 6. Flip that around so we can read them. So area 1/2 base times height, which is going to be 20 times 6 divided by 2. And if you work that out, that should give you a 60. And then they gave us units that are yards, so we have to make sure we do yards squared. You don't put the square units, that's not an area measurement, so make sure you include that. Okay, next one's here. Same question, find the area of each triangle below. Over here I have a 30-degree angle, a 90-degree angle. Okay, that tells me one of these sides is a base and one is a height. If I had both of them, awesome, I could just plug into the formula area equals 1/2 base times height. Alright, so we can't forget all of that stuff from chapter 8. This is a 30-degree angle, that's 90, so this has to be 60. Okay, this is a 30, 60, 90. This is our short leg, there's our hypotenuse, this is the long leg, and then the long leg is always short leg times square root of 3. And so for this one, that's going to be 1/2 of 7 square root 3 times 7. And if we left this as an exact answer, that's 49 square root 3 divided by 2. Now this is the exact answer. A lot of times they're going to tell you to round off. So I'm going to just leave this as feet squared. If they told us to round off, you would go ahead and type that into your calculator. So let's see, that's going to be, so you can see that, 49 square root 3, make sure you get out of there, divided by 2. Okay, so about Oh no, you can't even see my screen. It comes out to be about 42.4 if you're rounding off to the nearest tenths. And then make sure you put, again, feet squared. Alright, over here we have another right triangle. So we need to figure out the height. We can think of that as our base. I'll call this H for height. This is another trigonometry problem. Now we're going to have to use SOHCAHTOA. We can't use Pythagorean theorem, can't use 30, 60, 90 because that's not a 30 or a 60. Can't use 45, 45, 90. So that's opposite, that's adjacent. We're going to use a tangent. So tan 52 equals opposite over 8. So there's our height. Okay, so now to get our area, 1/2 base times height. If you left it in exact form, that'd be half of 8 times 8 tangent 52. And if you reduce that thing, that's 32 tangent 52, which I have no idea. I'd have to pull that calculator out and come up with the estimation, but I'm going to go ahead and leave it as centimeters squared. Okay, so the last one here is a word problem. They're telling us the height is 5 more than its base, and we know the area. So we'll go ahead and write out our formula. A equals 1/2 base times height. Okay, so this is a geometry class. We're usually used to visualizing things. Let's draw ourselves a picture. There's my base. There's my height. And they told us that the height is 5 more than the base. So what we can say is H equals the base plus 5. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and plug in everything we have. We know H in terms of B, and then we know what A is. A is 52 centimeters squared. So we'll put in 52 equals half of, so base times the height, but instead of H, I'm going to use B plus 5. And so we want to solve this equation. If you hate fractions like most people, you can multiply both sides by a 2. So that's 104 equals B times B plus 5. So this becomes a quadratic. You want to distribute. Okay, so get a 0 on one side. Alright, we want to find two numbers that multiply to minus 104, add up to a positive 5. Now we know the product is negative, meaning when I multiplied them, I got a minus, so one of them has to be positive, one has to be negative. Let's see, I can do like 26 times 4 would work, but that doesn't have a difference of 5. So I'm going to break that down. I'll start with 2. 52, 26. Okay, so I can write that as 2 times 2 times 2 times 13. I could do 4 times 26, I could do 2 times 52, blah, 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 blah. I just want to see which ordering is going to give me a difference of 5. It looks like I could do 8 times 13. So 8 times 13, that gives me 104, but I want one of them to be negative, one to be positive. Should be plus 13 and minus 8, because when you add them together, you're supposed to get a positive 5. So this tells me my base could either be negative 13, that's no good because distance can't be negative, or it could be 8. And they gave us units as centimeters, so they wanted us to find the base and the height. So if our base is 8 centimeters and they told us that the height is 5 more, we'll just add 5 to that. So height will be 13 centimeters. That's it. That should give you enough information to do the next assignments.